So then Simba encounters the anima. That's the anima, the Jungian anima. And the anima is the feminine counterpart in the soul. And she, well, yeah, you can tell what she does to him, right? Because she's got this supercilious and what would you say, judgmental and teasy look on her face. And she's really trying to put him down, and it's working like mad. He's not very happy about that at all. And she's the thing, this is what the anima does, the soul. She's the thing that teaches the exploratory hero that it's not everything it could be, right? And that's part of, this can be read multiple ways, but it's part of the eternal tendency of women to make men self-conscious by their sexual selectivity. That's part of it, because that makes men self-conscious like nothing else. And it's also perhaps been one of the phenomena that's produced the evolutionary arms race in the sexes among human beings that's caused our rapid cortical expansion and our quick movement away from chimpanzees, who aren't selective maters, by the way. He's the son of a king, so he's very, very privileged, and he confuses his privilege with competence, which of course all of you do, because you're all sons of the king, which is why you can sit here in the university, and you confuse your privilege with competence as well, because has nothing to do with any of you that the lights are on and this place is so peaceful, right? But you take that for granted, and it can make you false and arrogant. He's in for real trouble, man. He thinks he knows everything. And of course, then he has a wrestling match with, what's her name? Was it? Nala, yeah, he has a wrestling match with Nala, and she just pins him every time, right? Got you again, pinned you again. And that's basically right. One of the things that happens with men when they meet a woman who they really desire and admire is they project an ideal onto her immediately. That's an anima projection. And then that anima projection judges them, and they act all inferior and stupid. And it's partly because they are. That's why. And so then they go down in defeat constantly to this thing that they're projecting, which at least has some concordance with the actual woman, but not that much. So, okay, they keep wrestling, and then they're on the fringe of the kingdom. This wrestling match between this pairs of opposites takes them to the edge of the kingdom, and they end up in the elephant's graveyard, right? And there's bones everywhere. And so now they're out into the kingdom of death. And what that means is that these two kids, as they've grown up, encounter death, right? They go outside the light, and it's very, very shocking for them. They're very curious about it, obviously. They go to explore the skeletons and all of that, even though they were told not to. But their curiosity, they can't stay away from death. They're too curious about it. And so they develop knowledge of death. And then, of course, out there in the deadlands is where the hyenas are. And that's exactly right, because hyenas are scavengers, right? And they can break bones with their teeth. They're really, really quite the animal. And, you know, you kind of have a shudder of repugnance when you see those things. And I think it's partly, I mean, we shared an evolutionary landscape with the ancestors of hyenas for a very, very long time. And like vultures too, you know, you couldn't imagine something that would be more well designed to look like it was a horrible thing than a vulture, right? And there's this weird concordance, and crows and ravens are like that too, carrion eaters, you know. Eagles are kind of an exception, but they look just as creepy as they are, which is really quite interesting. And of course, hyenas fall into that category, and they laugh too, which is, you know, really? You also have to laugh, really, with all these other things you have going for you? And anyways, the hyenas are enemies of lions, and they can take lions down. They're tough things, and you know, they not one hyena, obviously, but a bunch of hyenas can give a lion a pretty damn rough time. And these little lions are really no match for the hyenas, and so they get threatened very, very rapidly. And one of the hyenas, of course, is just completely out of its mind. And one of the things that's really interesting, and you see this with the Muppets too, there was often a puppet that was like a crazy puppet, and its eyes would move in different directions. You know, and one of the things that happens with people who are schizophrenic is they show involuntary eye movements. And it's because you have a brain center that controls your eyes voluntarily, and you have another one that controls them involuntarily. So you can see that. Look ahead and try to move your eyes smoothly back and forth. You can't do it. You'll see that they jerk, hey? But if you put a finger in front of your face and then do this, they'll move perfectly smoothly, and that's because you're using different eye control centers, one voluntary and one more involuntary, and the involuntary one is actually more sophisticated. And so in schizophrenics, the involuntary eye control centers tend to disrupt the voluntary eye control centers, and that's likely part of the hallucinatory process, because you have the ego in the schizophrenic that's being disrupted by processes underneath, fantasies and that sort of thing. And that looks like it's reflected in involuntary eye movements, like dream movements. So anyways, so much for the crazy hyena. And they're in real trouble. Now the king's eye, who's supposed to be keeping an eye on this and was supposed to be watching Simba, is trying to intervene. But I mean, look at him. He's like a delicious little bird. And so that's not working out very well.